Hey there, Bible buddies. I've got another Bible review for you today, and this is a fairly unique edition done by Jay Green. If you guys are familiar with him, he's done quite a bit of modernized translations of the King James edition. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. He's had quite a few. One that I'm looking for is the I think it's called the Modern King James Bible. I saw one pop up on eBay not too long ago, and I missed it. I acted a little too slowly on my clicks. And I missed out on it. But he has done quite a bit of work with kind of more like modern translations, and they're like very lightly updated editions of the King James Bible. So let's go ahead and get into this one, as it is a unique translation. I can't speak to its, quality of the translation. So I'll just kind of review the edition, and you guys can be the judge. If you are interested in picking up one of these, they are very readily available on eBay. And for the most part, between 10 and 20 bucks, they're fairly inexpensive. But we can see here on the cover, it is just a black hardback, kind of a synthetic material on the cover there. It says the Children's King James Bible, New Testament, and then it has a little kind of depiction there of some people reading some scrolls on the spine. We have the Children's King James Bible, the New Testament, and Harper. So it's produced by Harper Collins. And then on the back, it's clean. Again, it's just a hardback construction there. It does have a red and yellow head and tail band, no ribbons or anything, and just white pages. These have kind of discolored over the years, I'm assuming with use. Hopefully with use. But we'll go ahead and get into it. It's just a paste down construction there. Nothing crazy. It is reinforced, it appears, maybe ever so slightly on the book block. But it's a kind of a black, what do you call that? Saffiano kind of paper. Saffiano leather look paper. The corner work is nothing to write home about, and certainly it's kind of beat up, as you would find most hardbacks to be. I find the hardbacks usually take a bit of beating. They can take a licking and keep on ticking, but they're usually more beat up than I find their softback counterparts to be. So if you guys aren't familiar with these sorts of children's Bibles, usually they're heavy in the depictions, the pictures. And then it kind of depends. Some of them are like a paraphrase. Some of them are just the King James version. It just has pictures in it. This is kind of, I wouldn't say a paraphrase. It's kind of a mix. So there's, actually, let's just flip into it, and it'll kind of be a little bit more evident in the in the table of contents. But here's your presentation page, and then your title page, the Children's King James Bible, with that same kind of depiction there. And then on the reverse side, you have your copyright information. You can even see there that it is produced by Modern Bible Translations, Inc. in 1960. Written in the United States of America. And there's the title page. And there's Jay Green. And then Peter Palmer did the stories. And then Manning D.V. Lee is responsible for the illustrations. And again, the Modern Bible Translations, Inc. Their information. So we have here the table of contents, and you can see the normal table of contents, right, for all the books of the Bible. But then on the flip side, we have the Bible stories. So it's pretty long here. So you can see the Gospel according to Matthew is from page 1 to page 96, and then Mark is from 96 to 96 to 159. So it's a pretty long expanse, much longer than you would expect, and that is in part because it does have these Bible stories. So the Bible stories are the portions that I guess you would read to your children, and then you could have the biblical text to refer to. And so the Bible story would just be like a condensed kind of like maybe like a kid appropriate version of the biblical story. Then we have more contents, different stories that go throughout. There's quite a bit of them. Then we have the table of signs used to indicate the pronunciation in the scripture. You have a preface here to the translation. Certainly, I would recommend that you guys read this, and then Jay Green is marked as the editor. Some things you will want to know about this Bible, about the wording, right, about the name King James in the title. And here we can read, it says, first, this children's version is called King James as an attempt to identify it as the same type of translation that is the beloved King James Version. It is literal, it is honest. It tells you which are God's words and which have been added. It is reverent. It leaves none of God's words out. Secondly, it is called the King James because it is the only modern version, using the same text as the King James translators used. I'm assuming they're talking about the Textus Receptus. Third, it is called King James because hundreds of verses normally used in memory work are left in the same language, not changed at all. Now, I did not find that to be true because I grew up on the King James Version, and one of the first verses I always check is John 3:16, and the wording is not the same in John 3:16 in this edition as it is in the King James Version. It is not the King James Version of 1611, for then words too big or too old for the child's understanding could not have been brought down to the language he could read and grasp. But we have called it King James because it comes in the spirit of the King James, and in order to indicate to the reader what type of version it truly is. So he's kind of I hate to say that's kind of Jay Green's MO, right? He has a lot of like King James, modern King James, or the KJV 3, I think is one that he worked on the KJV 2. So he uses that kind of King James, but it's kind of like it's kind of based on the King James version. It's not necessarily the King James. So that same thing being said here, it's not really the King James version text. It's kind of an adaptation of that text. Then you have about the illustrations, about the glossary, things to remember when reading this Bible. And it tells you a little bit of pertinent information. Pages with pictures are not the Bible itself. They are Bible stories. If you are reading the Bible text, skip the pages with pictures. So it gives you just a little info there, a little heads up, and then some other information. I'll let you actually guys see that because it might be pertinent to how you would feel about this translation. You can certainly pause it and read it if you want to. We have a little map of the Holy Land and the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 1. And so one of the unique things about this is that it is a single column paragraph layout. So whereas most, actual legitimate King James Bibles are for the most part in verse by verse, this one is done in paragraph. But you can see that we have the first page of Matthew here, and it goes, it's kind of weird how it's broken up. I feel like they probably should have separated it into maybe like a front half and a back half and just have the stories of the back half. It's kind of weird in the sense that you get to Matthew chapter 1, verse 17, and then it's like halfway through verse 17, you turn the page thinking you're going to get the rest of that verse, and you don't. It begins a Bible story. It gets right into it. So this particular story is wise men from the east. So you're kind of left wondering, okay, well, where does verse 17 pick up? So you got to flip a couple pages here to page 4, and that's where you can see that verse 17 picks up there. So it is a little kind of jumbled in that regard. I'm not a fan of when they do this. I mean, at least they give you that indicator there, and they show the pictures also to let you know, hey, this is story time. But I feel like those should be relegated maybe to after the biblical text would be best, or at the very least at the end of each chapter. So it's maybe kind of a clumsy handling of these stories. But you can see the illustrations there at the top. I'll let you guys read this story if you feel the need to kind of get a feeling for what it's like. And then we'll just kind of flip through it. But again, it is a single column paragraph layout, which is interesting because you don't see many, again, King James, I use that term loosely, King James editions that are paragraph. But we do have the chapter indicators there. There's just the page numbers in the outer corners, and then you kind of have the beginning chapter and verse. And this would be the beginning full verse. So remember, this is kind of the end of verse 17, but it's showing it here as Matthew 1:18. So verse 18 would be the first full verse. We have some more illustrations now in a purple color, and this is the flight into Egypt. And it does give you the verse references here, so it's telling you this is referencing Matthew 2:13 through 23 for this story. And then it goes back to biblical text. We do have pronouncing text there, and it is run kind of concurrently there. So you have the regular reading Zebulun and then the phonetic spelling. And more illustrations that lets us know that this is a story. And then back to biblical text. And so on and so forth. That's kind of how it goes. And I did notice there was quite a bit of stories in the beginning of the book, and then they kind of taper off as you get more into the text. But let's go ahead and get to John 3:16. I think we all know that one. And I'll show you how the reading is different, at least from what I remember it being. It might be a Mandela effect, and it's changed. No, it hasn't changed. But maybe my memory isn't what it used to be, and so maybe I'm recalling it differently, but I don't think I am because I learned that verse so long ago. Yeah, and see, I feel like I'm turning and turning and turning. Look, I've gone through 226 pages and I'm still not at John. Here we are. We're getting closer. Okay, so here's John 3:16. So it reads here, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes on him should not perish, but have everlasting life. So you can see that the wording is a little bit different if you guys are familiar with John 3:16. The THs have been left off of some of those words. So he has made some minor attempt to modernize it, albeit, still sticking to the majority of the text as it was from the KJV. And that would probably be pretty similar to what he explained in the beginning there. So we'll go ahead and kind of flip through it, and you can see that there's just kind of the stories are mixed in. Here we go again, and there's kind of a mix. Sometimes they're full color, sometimes they're black and white, sometimes they're purple, sometimes they're orange. I mean, I guess that was kind of the appeal for children, right? Children love colors. Make it all kinds of crazy colors, whatever you feel like doing. But it does appear as we go on that a lot of the illustrations have just become black and white. So you do get a kind of a mix. There's some purple ones, and there was some blue. There's some blue, and then we're back to black and white. So I'm not too sure what their kind of thought process was there. But yeah, I'll kind of chunk through it, and you guys can see more of the text. Go ahead and take a look at the paper since we're here. The paper is very nice, but it is akin to like just a standard kind of novel. It's a very rough paper. There's no show through whatsoever. Very thick sheets, very easy to turn. Doesn't particularly want to stay open to the page I'm on. It wants to kind of flip around. So it feels kind of more like maybe like an old like school text or something like that. It's kind of what you would expect from a hardbound book of this era. So we have some more. It's a little bit of everything. Let's go ahead and get to the end of it. And so there's Revelation 22. And and there's the end of it, verse 21. So then we have our glossary of terms. I'm going to show you that. I don't think there'll be many of these. I kind of like when the King James terms are kind of defined. That's one of the few things I wish all KJVs had in them. And then I'm back just another map. This time it is the missionary journeys of Paul. Just a little simple black and white map there. Kind of hard to read with the pronunciation kind of text there. And we just have our end sheet, our flyleaf, and that's it. So yeah, very interesting edition. Again, children's Bibles of that era were way different than they are now. It is what it is. If you guys are looking for a unique translation, this is, yes, technically considered a different translation. So if you guys are translation collectors, such as myself, this would be one you'd want to pick up. And again, they can be had relatively inexpensively. So if you're just looking maybe for like a completionist gold medal or something, this might be one for you. So let's go ahead and get you some measurements. Comes in at 8 3/4 inch tall by just over, oh goodness, what is that? 5.5, just shy of 5 3/4 inch wide, and right at 2 inches thick, just over 2 inches thick, So pretty chunky tome, especially given the fact that it's only the New Testament, right? But it's so full of those stories that I guess that's what would account for it. So I'm curious if the text is the same size, and it appears to be the same size between the two, biblical text and non-biblical text. So we'll just get one measurement. As far as uppercase goes, let's use the H and he. It's very large text, easily read. Appears to be a 12-point font versus Times New Roman. Come up here to the end and finish. It looks a little smaller, but not by much. Looks to be about an 11.5-point font versus Times New Roman. So I would say, because I always go by the lowercase, I would say that it's an 11.5-point font versus Times New Roman for the text of this edition. Now that's a good size. Definitely, it's very easy to read edition. I mean, you have these just beautiful paper. Very high opacity. Plenty of leading, plenty of space, nice gutter space. The text doesn't go into the gutters or anything like that. Very easily read edition. And if you're a fan of a more, kind of a simplified King James version, this might be the way for you to go. If you're interested in just a unique translation, this would definitely be the way for you to go. If you guys happen to have a modern King James Bible edition, let me know. I'd love to buy it from you if you have it up for sale. I have only like 2 translations left, and I missed them both within like a week of each other. It was a modern King James Bible by J.P. Green, and then it was somebody had what was it? It was done by Hendrickson. It was the Matthews Bible, and I missed out on that one because of my own nonsense that I did. It was a leather edition on both of those that I missed out on. So, world's smallest violin. Bible buddies, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, until next time, bye.